Here's what Paul wrote to the Philippians. Continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. Do everything without grumbling or arguing, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God, without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Walk the walk, talk the talk, walk the talk. We've all met folks who say one thing but do another. Their walk doesn't match up with their talk. The best way to get to know someone is not by listening to them talk, but by seeing how they live, how they act, how they walk. So to know God, we need to look at what he does, not just what he says. And we're never disappointed as the two work together. When I was younger, I remember my pastor suggesting we get involved in the community. Even though we had hundreds of students in our Lutheran school, Pastor Mueller served on the public school board. I thought about what he said when I became a pastor, but when I looked at local leaders, who are also known as politicians, I realized that they were quick talkers, and I'm not that. I'm very thoughtful and generally deliberate in what I say. When someone asks me a question, I pause before throwing out a quick answer. So I thought public leadership was not for me. I just don't have confidence to think on my feet and say the right thing immediately. So what happens is I force myself to say something, and then it sounds like I spin what I'm saying as more and more thoughts pop into my mind after I start talking. So I gave that idea of community leadership up. Not me. Stick with being a pastor. That's what I was trained for. What's interesting is that since then, any roles that I've assumed in the community were never things that I sought out. People invited me to get involved. I've noticed that you're visionary. Would you lead a process for our board? You're patient when people make suggestions. You're a good listener. We think you have what it takes to be the chair of public image. You're very careful and professional in your writing. Our community foundation needs some guidance with our website. Would you help? And a few years ago, we think you have what it takes to be a Rotary District governor. We've watched what you do for years. You're an encourager, an organizer, a problem solver, and you're an energetic public speaker. Now, none of that is me. That comes from watching Christ. He always follows through. He's compassionate to everyone around him. He's patient and gently challenges his friends. When there's a conflict, he enters into it. He doesn't walk away and give up. When people let him down, he sticks around and doesn't reprimand individuals. And here's the most amazing thing. When I let him down, he comes running after me. This past week, in our Sunday Bible study class, I learned one of the things that keeps me from being a better prayer. When I fall short, when I stumble, when I sin, I tend to avoid God. I have this feeling that I need to clean up my life, get my behavior in line with His expectations, and become the man of God that I should be in my role before I talk to Him. I think to myself that God doesn't want me when I do what I do. So I find something else to do rather than pray. But that's not true. It's not true at all. It's when I'm running from God, that's when His heart is most broken for me. He wants to heal me, to develop me, to transform me by His love. Jesus wants to cover me in the forgiveness that He has already earned for me. We need to leave behind all our human striving after salvation and cling to the cross of Jesus, which is the only means of salvation. We can't earn it. We can't work harder to gain it. Speaking for myself, I'm incomplete, blameworthy, guilty, filled with faults. The Bible story shows us precisely what the problem is. Sin is what creates a deep chasm between us and God. Paul writes, "Continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose." This has been misunderstood because it sounds like Paul might be saying that salvation is something that we work for. But then in the very same sentence, he says that salvation is what God is working in you. Paul's point is this: salvation is a divine action. It's God's action toward humanity. And it is in this action of God that we know His true identity. He isn't all talk. He does what He says. He is what He does. He is the only source of salvation. In a world where we've been let down by people all around us, Jesus shows us that He walked the talk. It says that Jesus was, in His very nature, God, but didn't consider equality with God something to be used to His own advantage. Rather, He made Himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. Being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, He humbled Himself and became obedient to death, even death on a cross. This is God. God poured Himself out, emptied Himself of His own glory in order to reach across the chasm to give you salvation. You see, salvation is an act of God, not something human beings do. Salvation comes from the cross, and you are invited into this movement. Walk the talk.